Hey everyone, Jay here. Today we're going to create a new GitHub repository and turn on GitHub pages so that the files that we put in there can be live and viewable on the web as HTML, CSS, and JavaScript files. Let's get started. So first thing, obviously, you have to create a GitHub account. GitHub is free. You can pay for some extra features. We won't need any of those today or in the near future, but that's an option. If you already have a GitHub account, great. You're ahead a little bit. If you don't have one, go ahead and create an account. Make sure you can log into it and whatnot, and then come back. So we're going to start with repositories. What repositories are places for you to put your code. What GitHub does is every time you upload and update files, is going to remember a complete history of what was added, what was removed, what was changed, who did it, when did they do it, and you can always go back and fix things that have broken over time. You'll never lose that history of changes. So here we are. I have gone to the repository pages and I've clicked new. I've not done anything else. I'm sitting right here. So you have to pick a name for your repository. And I'm just going to call mine temp repo. Right? It says the name temp repo is available. This is available to me. I've never created a repository called temp repo before. You can create as many repositories as you want, I think, still for free. Of course, you or me cannot have two repositories with the same name, right? You can have temp repo, I can have temp repo, but I can't have two temp repos, okay? Gives you an option to change the owner. You're never going to want to do that probably. Put in a description. Repo for an example video, right? Yours is going to be whatever you put on there, probably for your assignment that you're working on for me. Next option here is public or private. If you are working on code for a client and you don't want it publicly visible because of whatever client privilege possibly, whatever, you're going to put it on private. You can still share it with other people on GitHub. They can collaborate with you. You can work on team projects when they're private. However, if you're in my class, you're doing my assignments, it has to be public or I won't be able to see it and view your code. So public it is. I like to add a README. What it's going to do is just put a almost blank README file. The name of it is going to be README, and inside of it, it's going to have your description. That's it. If you're doing a much larger project, your README will grow and will probably have a description of what your project is, instructions on how to use it, that kind of thing. The gitignore is a file that will have a list of different files that you want to ignore when you're uploading new content to GitHub. We're not going to do any of that to begin with. The license, generally, I like to pick an MIT license. It's pretty flexible. It generally just means that you own the IP, the intellectual property of what you do. It's public. People can see it. They could use it for free as long as they give you credit. And then there's a note right here that says this will set main as the default branch. We're not going to do any branching today for sure, so main is definitely going to stay the default. And once we're ready, we're going to click create. It will go ahead and create that repository. So here we are in my temp repo. You'll see it has the README, and the README is going to show up down here. That's the contents of the README. So if I want to add more descriptions or instructions in there, I can. The license is also going to be down here. So pretty small license. That's one of the reasons I like the MIT license for general purpose type of stuff. So now we have a repo, but one, it's not visible on the web, and two, we didn't put any content in here to be visible anyway. So let's go ahead and make this visible. I'm going to go over to settings, click or scroll down to pages and click that. It used to be at a different place in settings. Now it has its own place. So we have a couple of options. We are going to deploy from a branch, which means that our code is going to be what is deployed. The other option here would be using actions. We're not doing any of that. And then we have to pick what branch. Remember, we didn't create a branch, so main is our only branch. We do have to select it, though. It's not selected by default because pages for GitHub is not turned on by default because not every project is going to be a website or have web pages that are visible, so it's not on by default. You pick what folder you want. So for example, if I had a project that was like some other kind of code and I wanted a companion website for it, I can put all the companion website files into a folder called like HTML, and I could select that folder. I'm just going to select the root folder, which is the main folder, so the whole thing itself will be website. I'll press save, and we get a little bit of extra stuff on here, like we could set a custom domain. You have to go somewhere and buy that custom domain and set up some DNS stuff, but then your custom domain could be linked to your GitHub repo. Enforce HTTPS. It's 2025. We should always be using HTTPS for everything. It doesn't even let me uncheck that box, which is great. It says you can add a Jekyll theme. I'm not going to do that because I'm customizing my own web pages. Why would I add Jekyll to that? I want to start from scratch instead. So this will update on its own in about 1 or 2 minutes. Every time you do an update on GitHub pages, it takes about 1 or so minutes before that update becomes visible live on the internet. And that is because GitHub is not creating a real-time refresh update for every page on all of its repositories. There's millions of them. They're not doing it in real time. It's about a minute delay. So let's hop over to our code, put something in there that we can actually see once it is ready. So we're going to come into Add File, Create New File, and I'm going to create a couple of files. First, I'm going to create index.html, and I'm going to put root location hello world. Okay, so that's going to be my content. I'm not actually putting any HTML yet because I'm just going over the overview here of how things work. So this is going to make a file called index.html, and it is in the root location, and I'm writing root location in here. So when I view it, I don't know which one is which. And I'm going to commit changes. GitHub is pretty particular about committing things. You have to give it a message every time. I'm just creating index.html, so I'm just going to leave that blank. Descriptions are optional. That's fine. You have the choice of committing directly to the main branch or creating a new branch. I don't want to create new branches, so I'm going to leave that alone and commit changes. All right. Again, that will be visible in about a minute. So while I'm continuing to use the web interface, we'll add another file. We're going to put this one inside of a directory. And the way we do that is very easy, but it's a bit tricky to figure out the first time. So I'm going to call my directory module01 as an example. There we go. Index.html is the name of the file. So you see what I did there is as soon as you type a slash, oh, come on. What is happening? There we go. Something wrong with my keyboard. As soon as you type a slash, you will see that it appears there as the directory, which is great. All right. 01. Hello world. All right, so creating basically the same file as before with a little bit different text so we know which one is which, and I'm putting this one inside of a directory. I'm going to commit changes. All right, And we can actually come in here and edit this file. I'm going to add a couple of spaces, right? Put some marks in there, just make it look edited. Commit those changes, updated index.html. Great. Now that I've edited that, I can see the history. And you'll see that there's the history. I created it, and then I updated it. And you'll see GitHub remembers all of the updates. So it sees I did not change the first line. The second line, this is what it used to be, and this is what it is now. So that's pretty awesome. Come back to the main code page. You see all the stuff that I created. And now back into settings and pages, and this will have updated because it's been longer than a minute. And this is the URL that GitHub gives you. It's going to be your GitHub username .github.io / the repo name. That is going to be the URL for the root or the main page of your website. So if I visit website, have root location, hello world. Hopefully you can see that. Let's zoom up a little bit. All right, so we have that. If I type in module 1, it's not there. Probably we have to wait a minute. If I refresh, it might appear. Let me just make sure that I spelled everything correctly. I did not. So let's come in here and see if I can edit this. Module 1, all right, that's a way to edit the directory. Commit changes, it's going to say rename. All right, so edited that, moved it to a new location, and if I check on the history, you see that it was renamed. There we go. So that's pretty cool. It does continue to have all that history. You can take a deep dive into that and see what it looks like. But I cut the video and jumped ahead a minute so that this will be fresh right away. And now if I refresh this page, there it is. I'll zoom up and you can see it has that content in there. So remember, every time you make a new commit of some HTML or CSS or JavaScript or any web content, you do have to wait about a minute before pages will update that. And if you ever forget what your link is, you can come back to settings and pages, and the link to your main page of that repo will be right there. Or you can always remember it is going to be https:// your GitHub username .github.io / the repo name. Right. That's it. That should get you creating a new repo, doing some basic initialized settings, turning on GitHub pages, and then finding the URL to that website, as well as uploading and changing some files through the web interface on GitHub. I do highly recommend that you use either VS Code or the GitHub desktop app for uploading multiple file changes. It's a much smoother process than having to edit things through the web interface, especially if you need to change directories. But the GitHub web interface is definitely capable of doing everything, even if it might be a couple extra button presses. All right, that's it. Thanks for watching.